There's some hoes in this house, there's some hoes in this house, there's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house, there's some hoes in this house, there's some hoes in this house. I said certified freak, 7 days a week.
King, I just needed to start this off with some warnings for everybody. This is going to be a different kind of John's Comics with Kids tonight. This is going to be something different. We've found the smut, gang. We found it. It's here. This is some spicy meatballs. We've entered the phase that we were all really probably enthusiastically hoping to find at one point or another. So yeah, I have an Instagram link for that song down below. If you really want the incredible WAP, emotionally significant welcome, you can enjoy it. This is yet another edition of Beards and Bourbon, a quart of beards and bourbon with me and this guy.
Buddy. How we doing? Are we about to get our first copyright strike with that? I hope that is your first copyright strike right there.
Well, the Harry Potter got me originally back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, don't worry, I've got another one for the end of the show.
Even better. Let's just get them all in.
Hey, welcome back, bud.
Thanks, bud. Thanks.
This is exciting because this is we're finally branching a little bit away from Sarah J. Maas in our discussions around modern female fantasy writers and what people have been calling fairy smut.
Yeah, and I'm excited because I feel like I needed a break from the Maas verse. And when we were in Portland, we saw this book on the shelves, and you and I both bought it at Pal's bookstore.
There's photographic evidence.
Yeah. And I was just like, after the one, I wasn't like, y'all loved Airfire, and I didn't as much as y'all. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to branch off in the fourth wing. Paulo read it, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. And then I forced the hand of everyone else.
I mean, I was ready for, branching out a little bit. Yeah. I was excited for this. And
spreading our wings, if you will.
I was going to say, I was a big fantasy dragon reader when I was a kid. So books with dragons always hooked me when I was young.
Favorite Sean Connery movie is Dragonheart. So,
well, of course, of all the great Connery movies, that one. More David Thewlis is what the world needs.
Yes.
Well, let's bring in the other members of our fourth wing panel discussion.
Because you got to have 4.
Oh, look at that. Bold. If people aren't familiar with this series, there is a playlist. All of the dudes reading fairy smut is all down below. But let's bring in some of our homies that have been with us a ton. First, kicking it off, of course, with Paul from Florida Gulf Coast. What's going on, Big O?
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening?
We've roped you in yet again for more fantasy book talking here.
I'm in. I'm just hoping that I can convince you guys to read all of these books.
There's
only 2 more after this, right?
Right now,
because January they published.
Listen, we're playing catch up, so as long as we catch up,
right,
I'm there. So,
and then the newest member of our squad, the guy that I've been roping in most recently, we got JP. The smut has been found. Yes, hello. Cheers to the Bat Boys.
Woo!
That's a good segue, JP. What are you drinking tonight, bud?
I am drinking. Well, that's water, but over here we got a little. We just grabbed some Michter's because it's getting
nice.
I got Michter's too.
Nice.
Paul's drinking Michter's too. There, look, man. See, I'm not in the group here. I gotta get in.
I did that last time. I'm just a trendsetter, but I'm switching up this time. Doing a little 1792.
Oh, I have that upstairs too. I did not grab that.
So I just bought a new bottle because I saw this was getting low. So I was like, you know what? Let's finish it off.
Never seen in a store here ever.
Well, don't worry, JP. You when you get out here next in the fall, I'll make sure you try it out.
Yeah. Well, I've tried it, but I've just never seen it. So I've never been able to purchase my own bottle, but I have.
Okay. Well, then, cheers to all you gentlemen.
Cheers.
Let's dive right in. Yeah, we've got a new novelist here. We've got Rebecca Yarros, the first of currently 3, although I heard rumor that it's planned to be 5 novels in the Empyrean story. This is Fourth Wing. I want to go around and just kind of get like a sense of what you knew about it going in, what you had heard, maybe if this was the first time you'd read it or if you'd read it. I think at least for 3 of us is the first time we've read it before. I'm going to start with myself. I had heard about this once I got into Sarah J. Maas. This was like 1B for that. It was kind of like you were reading Court of Thorns and Roses, you were reading Throne of Glass, and then you were reading Fourth Wing in whatever order those things kind of happened. I did also hear from Sheena many times that she did not like this one. So it instantly was on the list of like, this is maybe a more divisive series than maybe ACOTAR or Throne of Glass. So that piqued an interest in me as well. I also heard that there is no, and I was heard correctly, waiting for the smut to occur, that it's included, in the first volume. It's not a like, oh, you got to get 5 books deep before they start, having that element included in the plot. So yeah, this was my first time reading it. Incredibly fast read. I got the whole thing done in about a week, but I did have the 3 of these gentlemen, like, guiding me, pushing me. They had all finished it and they were like, get on your game.
Not only did we finish it, Big O lapped you.
Yeah,
he started and then reread it again.
Yeah, he's gone around many times. Well, then Greg, let's go to you. Obviously, sorry.
I'm 2 chapters away from being done with book 2.
Now, see, he's passed me on that.
Oh, he moved on ahead.
Yeah.
Well, then, Greg, I know you and I bought it at the same time, same day. So this is your first read. What did you know going in? Where were you at with this?
I knew nothing except for once I started getting into the Sarah J. Maas books, we all got kind of roped into book talk a little bit. And we've been sending stuff, and you'd always see like Tamlin and, Reese Cup and all these names. And like Zandon was always there. And, Dane Cook was there. And all these other, names were in this one.
Keep it up.
And like, so I was like, I felt like I at least had to experience Fourth Wing so I can enjoy some of these memes that are getting tied into my Sarah J. Maas book. So
I love it.
So that was kind of why I was like, and then I needed that break I talked about earlier. I just felt like the world was building, and I was just like, I needed
something from Sarah J. Maas.
Yeah, just from like, and it's not like I don't like the Sarah J. Maas. I just needed a break, and so I thought Fourth Wing was.
We've done a ton of. We've done what 7, 8 books at this point. I mean, we were doing a ton of work there.
And so I was like, you know what? I have this book lying around. I'm gonna pick it up, and I think it was actually the weekend after we finished the Air of Fire. I started like Saturday. I texted you all. I was like, Saturday, I'm like, I'm starting this, and then I think like by Tuesday morning, I was like, and I'm done.
All right, Paul. Let's say hello to the chat. I'm sorry, I forgot to say hello to the chat. Forgot to say hi to some people. Tailgater, Ruben Guzman. What's going on? Ruby G. Derek was in here early. What's going on, Derek? And Ian, what's going on? Strange Dog. How you doing, Ian? We got Conlin Comics. What's going on, Stevie? Good to see you, sir. Rod the Rican has been dropping some great videos, and he's got a cool new logo. Really, really awesome looking logo, buddy. Handsome sucker. Let's see here. Scrolling down, and we got Paul in the chat, and his links are down below, like JP's links and Bearded Comic Bros links. They're all down there below. Instagram, YouTube, you got it. It's all down there, folks. And we got Kevin from Empyrean Comics. What's up, Kev? Good to see you, my friend. I wanted to also mention the other link that you'll find down there is for Bethany, and I've got her YouTube, her Instagram, and her website because she is the designer. I kind of told her what I wanted. I wanted a starry sky that was kind of blue. I wanted some bat wings and the words Bat Boys, and she came up with the awesome Lost Boys font, which I thought was fantastic. And we went through a few designs, and then she crushed it. Yeah, sent them all out, and I appreciate you, Bethany. So her links are down there, and if you want a copy, if you want one of your own, whatever, just hit her up. She is an awesome community member. Oh, and Christina. Hello, Christina. Almost missed you. All right, Paul. Yeah. Obviously now you're telling us you've read through this a couple of times. When did you first come to it, and what was your prior knowledge going in?
So first time through, this actually, believe it or not, and you guys, now that you've read this, and one of the reasons that I messaged John this question one day, my daughter read this book before I did. And I was like, okay, let me see what she's getting into. Because again, reading all the ACOTAR books, I wanted to stay level with things. And reading this after she had read it, I was just like, oh boy, what am I gonna, what have I let her do? And then, but I really enjoyed it. It's such a fast read. It's very quick paced. I like it. The tempo compared to Throne of Glass, compared to any of the ACOTAR books, the tempo is so much better. So
like more consistent is what you're saying versus like
it's
slow build and then a big ending.
Yeah, the ups and downs in all of the ACOTAR books of kind of having those points in the book where you just have to like slog through a couple chapters to get to something that you have been waiting for. There's none of that here. This is pretty on pace with everything consistently. So sure. I like these, and like I said, I read through that first book, the reread through the first book over the weekend, kind of like how Greg did, and then as soon as I did, I started book 2 because I'm sitting here with book 3, having not read book 3. Waiting for my daughter to do it, and I was just like, well, she's too slow. I stole the book from her, so it's sitting here. School's gonna be out in a week, so I'll have this book probably going during exams and stuff.
Okay, nice. And then JP, how about you? Where did you? I mean, obviously you probably heard about it through the memes and such, and maybe through Greg and I snagging it.
I didn't. When you guys, I heard about it before then. When you guys started the Court of Thorns and Roses last summer, I went into, I don't remember, it was last summer sometime, I went into a Barnes & Noble, and I saw the little display for it, and I walked over, and I was like looking at the thing, because you guys had been reading it, and I was like, okay, am I going to start these or not? And on the same thing these were the Fourth Wing books, and I was like, okay, well, what is this? And so I opened it and read like the Dust Jacket, and was like, okay, and I was like, that sounds... In some ways, I thought this sounded more interesting because they're dragons. I was like, it's like dragons. Like, okay, but I didn't pick up any of them at the time. I was like, nah, I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, pace yourself.
And then I had foot surgery and was like stuck at home reading books. And my sister handed me the Court of Thorns and Roses, and here I'm at. So
you're one of us. One of us. One of us.
One of you now.
I love it.
So
and you're happy for it.
I've gotten all the Throne of Glass books. I've gotten all the Court of Thorns and Roses books, and I've worked my way basically not as far as you guys had. And Greg's like, "We're not going to read Throne of Glass anymore. I'm reading Fourth Wing." So I was like, "Oh shit!" So
that's exactly how it went.
I'm like, I need a break, and I sounded just like that. I was a petulant child. I was like, you guys made me read about Manananon, and I didn't like her, and I wanted something else, and so
I was like, well, I don't have it. I just got to be on a show finally. I was like, well, so I ordered this book.
And that's how you rope them in. You rope them in because they're like, once you're in, you want to be a part of the crew now.
So meanwhile, while John's been reading this, I've read, since we did Airfire, I've read Assassin's Blade. I've read this. I've read
I saw this. Yep, I saw this.
And I am that many pages from the end.
Oh, you're in the deep and thick of it there. And I don't mean that. There's a lot of euphemisms.
So that's why your name is what your name is.
Yeah,
that's the book.
So
there it is.
Hilarious. Awesome.
So yeah, you guys are all the blame.
Hello, Kenneth. Good to see you, Kenneth. And Christina is dropping the awesome Crafts by Bethany link. Again, it is pinned. Yeah, so you can definitely, it's going to be pinned all night, so you can definitely utilize it whenever you want, or hit her up on Instagram. It's very friendly, easy to chat with, and she's going to definitely be able to help you if you need something. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give a brief overview for those that are unfamiliar with the plot, and then we can give like an overall review of how we felt about the book before we get into like individual portions and break it down into pieces. The concept for this is more classic as far as sort of modern fantasy, in my opinion. It's school bound, right? There's a school concept here, whether that's, you know, in your mind, Harry Potter or Ender's Game is what I got out of it. It definitely gave me an Ender's Game feel if you've never read those books by, is it Orson Scott Card, right? And did I say it right? Did I mess it up?
I think it's Orson Card, because
I thought that's the Ender's Game writer.
So I think it's Orson Scott Card.
I think so.
Right.
I'm willing to say. But the concept of like a war school, right? A school that is basically training very young soldiers. And in this case, they're in their 20s. It's a 3-year academy, and there are various strands that students can end up in. And the most brutal, violent, and maybe sought after strand is the dragon riding strand. The plot centers around a young lady who basically has been hoping all of her life to not follow in her family's footsteps and avoid the dragon riders section of the school, and wants to be what they call a scribe and study literature and reading, is forced by her mom, who is basically the headmaster of the school. She's the general of the army. And basically mom says, I'm gonna drag you kicking and screaming through this thing, or you're just gonna die. Either you're gonna die or you're gonna be a dragon rider. There's no other option. So the book follows our protagonist as she basically ventures through a very tumultuous, difficult time. Her name is Violet, or Vi, or V, or Violence, as one of the characters calls her. And we see her struggle through this first year of school, a year when a lot of students die. The ratio of success is incredibly low, and you have to survive a ton of tasks, including your classmates who might often try to kill you. And because of her mom's status, she's got an even bigger target on her back. Another big facet is pairing or bonding with a particular dragon, because the dragons themselves are almost like staff. They rule the roost in a lot of ways and can choose to bond with you or completely ignore you or singe and burn you to nothing. So it's a very violent and tumultuous experience this year in school. And we follow Violet through this process while she's dealing with, upperclassmen who want nothing to do with her, or are in fact tripping her up on her way, childhood friends who seem to just want to shelter her and not necessarily, help her to achieve success, and an ongoing battle within herself to decide, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Right? That's her journey for herself. And then, of course, the dragons come into that as they go along. But this is the concept of Fourth Wing, and it's really a like child soldier story. And by child, I'm just saying in their 20s. They're not as young as characters often are in fantasy. They're a little bit older. I think I got the basics, but certainly you guys can chime in as you throw your reviews. And Greg, I'm going to go to you first. Like, what did you think of this book? The concept, the overall thoughts. You can give it a grade if you want, or just give us your feelings.
I love that we are using like, they're older characters when they're still 20. If they can drink alcohol, I'm impressed at this point. Like legally in the US, I feel like a lot of the stuff we're reading is like, no, they're still 17. These are 17-year-olds. Agu? Yeah. It's one of those interesting things. Paul mentioned that it was an easier read, and I think I mentioned it in our group chat. This felt very much like it was written, and this isn't a slight or a knock on Rebecca. It feels like it was written like a YA book with mature themes. Like, I find like when I read those YA books, they're written in a way that I can read them a lot faster, whether it's the dialogue, whether it's the story pacing, even if it's, or chapter breakdowns. For whatever reason, something about this had a very much YA feel, with very mature themes. And I think that allowed me to breeze through it. On top of that, I really enjoyed the book. I'll go into what I really felt about it as we unpack this, but I thought it was an interesting concept. I didn't get Harry Potter vibes as much, like you said, go to school, but like Ender Game would have been a very good thought if I was smarter and actually thought about it for a little bit.
Or if you'd never read or seen that movie, then you
right, but which I had, so that's why I'm knocking myself here. I think what there are some times where I'm like, wow, this is like over the top a little bit, and so like I almost have to. It sounds weird to say like, suspend belief a little bit when you're talking about a book with like where they're connecting with dragons and fighting the War College, but like the way the character of Violet is set up, and I know we'll talk about her and her her struggles as as a young person and things like that, but also like the decisions like her mom makes and the whole basis of the War College, like the fact that like you're like, oh, let's send you to a school where the survival rate is like 12%, like, but good luck, have fun.
Right.
If the student loans won't kill you, walking across a bridge will. Like, it's like, come on, like. So there's a little bit of that where I'm like, man, this is intense. But like how they kind of built out, I do feel like they built out the world really fast. Rebecca really built out this world a lot faster than it did in the ACOTAR books. I got to kind of have an idea of what was happening very early on, which I think is going to allow me to enjoy those moments a little bit more moving forward.
Clever. Yeah, I can see that totally. Paul, let's go to you next. What were you feeling about this book? How would you grade it, or what's your overall attitude toward it?
I very much enjoy it. Also, I like the aspects of it that were the little bit of the military aspect towards some of the things, trying to find different things, and we're talking about Ender's Game and talking about some of those comparisons. For me, the first time I read it, it felt like Starship Troopers with dragons, fantasy Starship Troopers with dragons.
Oh, I
right?
like that.
Like, and that was just like, for whatever reason, it didn't feel like the depth was there, right? Like Greg was just saying, it's a little bit of it reads like a young adult book, but with the more mature themes. And then reading it through that second time, and now reading through the second book the second time, so much of this first book lays those foundational pieces. Kind of like how we talked about some of the Throne of Glass books. You don't really realize some of the things and the themes and what's said and what's described are there. For this second time through, for me, it's like it makes a lot more sense now where that depth comes from, and that's why I like this the second time through. I've really enjoyed, even though I feel like I went much faster the second time through. I enjoyed it a lot more.
JP, any comparisons for you that you caught into right off the bat, or how are you feeling about this book as a whole?
I don't know about necessarily comparisons. I tried to obviously you have the school, the academy. I did not think of the Starship Troopers thing. I'm actually more disappointed in myself in that, because unlike Ender's Game, it has the risk of like people die like during the training and stuff, and it has a little more of the upfront violence kind of thing. I enjoyed the heck out of this. I thought it was a fun world. It does, like they said, it does read very quickly, and I think her writing style gives it it feels a little bit YA, just because it's like, it is a quick read. It's you can kind of breeze through it. There's not a lot of like detailed descriptions of things they're looking at and what the world, of all this kind. And yet she still manages to build a world that you can kind of like understand and see. Like Greg talked about, it's there, but it's just like, this isn't George R.R. Martin that spends 3 pages talking about the way a tree looks. You're staring at, It's like, so she does it. She's very efficient in how she's like building out this world.
That's a good word. Yeah.
I think so. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I love the concept here. I really enjoyed Violet here in terms of just, where she was coming from. I think it's her relationship with her mother or non-relationship with her mother, her relationship with her sister, I think is all set up really well. Giving her, and there occasionally you'll see people though that aren't her mother that she knew from before that care about her, that are like, worried about her being in this place and like her limitations, and her trying to overcome that perception of herself that she has, but everyone on the outside world has put upon her that she's not strong enough to do this. And so, yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of this. I thought it was really, really well set up. I enjoyed the side characters. I think in some ways, this book probably has a bigger hook for me than the first book of the other two series that we've talked about. And part of it is because it's such an easier read. Part of it is it just gets into it. Like you talked about the pacing. It's a much faster pace. I don't know that the pacing is better, but it's just faster. It like hooks you like, okay, what's happening? And like, because I poured through this in literally like 48 hours. Yeah. It's like one evening to like the next whole day. And then by that third evening or whatever, I was done. So,
wow. Well, I mean, as I often find, JP, you and I like simpatico in a lot of ways, like see things as similar. Like, yeah, I totally see a lot of the similarities to what you're saying. And of the three first books that we've done so far in all three of these series, right? A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, and this, I like this one the best of those three. It just feels the tightest, the most efficient, I think is one of the words people said. The world is clearer right off the bat. The characters are far more like developed right off the bat. So if you want to do the comics metaphor, like as an issue one, it's the better issue one, right? The jumping on point, the effectiveness for the reader. I was faster. I had a faster hook. Like I was into this one with more expeditious kind of like need to want more. And I also totally agree with all of you as far as this feeling like the simpler prose style and not having, a ton of exposition on things, and it was really driven by Violet, and it was very much through her eyes and through her needs and through her difficulties. And it felt, it had, in common with kind of the Hunger Games and, kind of things that are very kind of common right now. Ender's Game came to mind first because I had rewatched the movie just in the last year, and there are some deaths at that school, and it did just kind of catch me with the intensity of kind of those kids that are just like way, in that at least story, way too young to be doing this stuff. And in this, I felt like, I was at least happy with my constant complaint about Sara was like, stop telling me teenager stories. Like, I just give me a little bit older was what I was asking. And this was that. This was that, like, okay, a lot of these characters are mid-20s, somewhere in that range. And I felt like, okay, at least now I feel like they've had a little bit of life experience, a little bit of understanding. And this, I wanted a college age thing, and this was that. And so it worked for me on that front. Doesn't mean there won't be things I don't like and things I want to complain about. It doesn't mean it's the best of all the books we've read, because I'm a big fan of the book 2 or 3s in some of these other series. Yeah. But I was very pleased. So I'm going to go back in the opposite order, and I want to talk a little bit about Violet. So I want to talk about this character. She's got a mom who's very manipulative and overpowering, and kind of not really in the book very much, except through Violet talking about her passively. Like, she did this, she said this, she's gonna do this, she's gonna do that. And we've got a sister who's a soldier and dragon rider out in the world doing all these amazing things. We've got a brother who's died, a father who's died, and she's carrying the weight of a lot of that around with her. And I don't mind spoilers. If you want to get into spoilers, this is a spoiler show. So anybody watching who is like, don't ruin it for me, now's the time to hit the like and bounce out. But I'd love to hear, JP, your thoughts on Violet. As you know, we've got now Selena, we've got Feyre, and we've got Violet. Do you have a favorite among them? How does she fit in with those other two?
So I found her I'll get to the favorite thing here in a second, but I found her super interesting because she didn't necessarily, obviously she'd lost her brother, she'd lost her dad, but she didn't necessarily have some of the background trauma that we get from those other two characters that we don't know about, like necessarily like up front.
Yeah.
Her trauma is that basically like her mother struggled with the pregnancy. She was preemie a little bit. She's small. She's weaker. Like she's had weaker joints her whole life, which is why she was headed toward the scribe thing, where her whole family before had been dragon riders. Is because
And her dad was a scribe, and
her dad was
had
a scribe
passion for these things. Yeah.
but
before he died,
she, nobody thought she had nobody still does think she has the physical strength to survive in dragon riding school, and so, but she has kind of a unique look. She's smaller than everybody else that she's going up against. I enjoyed her attitude, like the scene early on with her mother and her sister, and like her sister, like helping her at the very beginning, like pack correctly and, and all this stuff. But her attitude is like, okay, that like, this is not what I want, but the choice has been made. I'm going to do the best I can. And she kind of throws herself in, and I appreciated that. And I really enjoyed that her sister gave her brother's, like what the brother had given her, like the book of advice, and her like
the journal,
using that to her advantage of using the knowledge of her siblings who've been through this to help her get through it.
Right.
And that she uses her brain. Like some of the things I will say, complaints about the other two main heroines is sometimes they don't think before they do, and Violet, because she has to, is always thinking before she does, or
overthinks,
overthinks sometimes. Yes,
yeah,
for sure. And so I really enjoyed Violet as a character.
I'm super excited that we got a homie in the chat who clearly knows these books. What's up, Stevie?
Yeah,
Mira is the sister, and Steve, you just rose like 3-4 ranks in my estimation, my friend.
Yeah, Mira is an excellent, like for what little she's in the book in terms of her ability to support Violet, and like Mira is a great character in this book as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed Violet. I thought she's smart. She's obviously very sassy in terms of the way she goes, is going through this. And as she starts to realize, hey, maybe I can do this. Like she's very determined, and I appreciated that about her as well. And she's also like quickly makes, like even in the school where the advice she got was don't make friends, like make allies. She makes friends like in a way that works. So, she doesn't shy away from it, even in this horrible place where most of these people aren't going to make it, but she doesn't, so
yeah.
I'll let somebody else go.
We got Taylor in the chat. What's going on? Taylor said the dragon princess vagabond homeless child grew up to grow to power. I should probably read something sometime. Yeah, I mean, hey, tropes are tropes. It's going to be a thing, Taylor. I appreciate you, buddy. Paul, so what are your thoughts on Violet? How does she fit in as far as your favorite female protagonist? Because we've been obviously.
I guess I didn't say that, did I?
I mean, if you want to give us a quick ranking, JP, go ahead.
I think it's still Selena Moore or Aelin Moore, but I'm 4 books through her now, and I'm 1 book through Violet. So I think I put her above Feyre, and that's not a knock.
That's my same ranking, I think, for right now.
That's not a knock.
Selena,
I do enjoy
Selena,
Feyre,
Violet.
but I think Violet is in the middle there, but just 1 book in. So,
but don't make me put Nesta on that list, or it's going to get some.
Well, then it gets more complicated. If you add Nesta. I haven't quite finished yet, but that would get more complicated.
I really do think that Violet in this is super complex, right? Like everything that she ever shows in the book is she's determined, like JP was just saying, like super determined, super smart, like the intelligence is there, working through problems, trying to figure stuff out, and every like negative attribute that she carries herself is something that other people have said about her, and she like reflects that, and it's just like the process of this book is like getting her through that and pushing through all of those outward thoughts to recognize that she doesn't need those outward thoughts. She can do the things on her own. So it's super impressive in how that she's written as a character. I really enjoy the different monologues that she has with all of the different interactions she has with her family. Right, I can't agree more. More mirror is always a good thing. I think that the interaction she has with her mom, her squad mates, like finding those friends almost like a found family of your squad is your family kind of deal, and kind of building that is what makes her better at what she does. It's like everybody says, oh, don't learn their names, don't learn anybody's name until after they've bonded their dragons, because otherwise they're not going to be anybody. And it's just like, well, she learns people's names and she figures out and she gets to know them, and that's what makes her better and more grounded than others in the book, in this first book at least.
Sure.
I really enjoyed the character. I think I don't know. I've read more of Throne of Glass than you guys have, and I've read all of the two of the three of these books, and I think Feyre's is like number 2, and then Violet and Aelin are like 1A and 1B. I do think that they're over.
But that's the same ranking JP and I have.
Yeah, it's
basically.
something. So it depends on which book I've read more recently, which one's 1A
Sure.
and which one's 1B.
Sure.
And then we won't even talk about the other Sarah J. Maas series and the main female.
I'm not ready for Crescent. I'm not ready for Crescent City. Greg's gonna start shaking fists at me, I think.
She might jump somebody in the ranking once we ever get to those.
Oh man.
So
all right.
Once we ever get to those, we'll get to those. Okay, like we're reading a lot of books here. Pace yourself, okay? Yeah, some of us still got to read comics, okay?
I still read all my comics too. Don't yell at me.
Yeah. This weekend,
no.
JP, can you do me a favor? Can you get Paul on one of your indie comic shows so he can like have something else to read, so it slows it down a little bit for me?
Yeah. I was just talking to John that once we finish Fear Agent, I don't have anything going. Like
there
I need to find
perfect, because I need Paul to read some other stuff to just
send him your list, and we'll see.
I'll have to do that. I will send Paul my list so that we can get him on.
All right, Greg. Sorry. Where does Violet fit for you? How are you feeling about her as a protagonist at this point?
I'm super invested in her, and I think what I don't remember necessarily how the other Court of Thrones, any of the Sarah J. Maas ones or the first couple, but I'm pretty sure most of them were the first person perspective, and I think that, for the most part, except for Heir of Fire, was the last one I remember where it was like we spent some time with Selena, we spent some time with, Mon and whatever, and we spent some time over here. All these different ones, and I think that might have actually, as I was reading this, I think that's why I didn't like Heir of Fire as much, because I was already invested in Selena. I didn't like her story was the most compelling, and I liked Kanan. I liked those other, those other Chol and sorry JP, I like him. No, say his name. Put some respect on it.
Chode.
I think this is what this worked for me, right? Like it felt, and that's where it felt like it never lost pacing, because when something happened to Violet, we kind of picked up right where that was left. It wasn't like the classic trope of the big cliffhanger happens at the end of a chapter and then you go follow something else and you're like 2-3 chapters later. And I know I'm going to probably kick myself in the butt, because as this world expands, it's going to probably happen when this one too. Because
that was my question, actually. Do you think it's a matter of first volumes being so streamlined and focused versus later volumes? And this is the Wheel of Time issue, that the universe expands so big that you become not as invested in certain plot lines.
It's tough, and then to Sarah J. Maas's credit, they took a character for 3 books that we were invested in, we cared about, we loved, and then said, deuces, you're out. I mean, she's in the 3.5, but the one that JP's in now, like, she's not in this.
No.
And I was okay with it because there was those side characters, and I think I really appreciated there wasn't as much jumping around even in that one. It was like, let's still focus on Nesta and what she's
Well, it was Nesta and Cassian. You had
Yeah.
two,
but like you're
it wasn't Nesta and then Feyre and then Cassian
it was
and
the
then
same,
Rhysand and
it was the same kind of cohort, where I felt like Air of Fire was, I had this story going on, and then I had the witches, battle royale training going on over here, and
then
if you
Kale
don't
over
hooked
here,
in,
and then
you guys got hooked in, and that was okay. I didn't get hooked in there,
sure.
and so those moments were dragged. So I think that's what captivated me with this first volume a little bit more, and there's a little bit more rhythm, and I still love the Court of Thorns and Roses. Like I was remembering back, like, man, that end was fantastic, of those, like, battling the monster,
fighting the worm in the mud and
from Tremors and things like that. Like, it was great,
dancing in the fairy wine, and
but I think I love the complexity of this character.
Okay.
I've read about 150 pages in the next one.
Damn.
Of this one. So, like,
I guess I know what we're doing next.
I'll be curious to see kind of where, I thought the choice of kind of having her with the disability was an interesting move here, right? Because, I do think there is a little bit of the protectiveness. Like, I can buy into it a little bit more when it's, of them, like Violet, like, it's not even just like, you can't do this. It's like, you are physically, like, you have physical, things limitations that go against you, and that are going to make this a struggle. Like, and so it's not even just like it was. And I thought that was an interesting layer to add, because it was more than this, like, you're a girl, you can't do this, right? It was you have a physical, element that is, holding you back, that's going to cause. And I also really like the character building of it, of she didn't just win these battles right off the bat. She has the book smarts. Like, she read these books. Like, that was what her training was for.
She's got to be gritty.
And so, like, she has to be tough. And, like, so, like, I think you get to see, like, there isn't this false, like, badassery put on her of, like, right off the bat, of, like, because, like, she's all of a sudden, like, she's brilliant, and then she also can cut you down in 2 strokes. Like,
right.
There's, like, no, like, she gets her arm broken, like, instantly in this book, because she almost falls walking on the bridge. Like, there's multiple moments she can't make the jump, to get to the threshing, because she's too small. She's like, it's just your physical limitations. It's not who you are. But she uses her wit. She uses the things that she does have. And, like, and I feel like I appreciated those moments a little bit more, where sometimes I think, like, with magic, when the magic comes in a little bit more in ACOTAR or Game of Thrones, not Game of Thrones, Throne of Glass, like, that can almost be used as just like they have this magical ability that allows them to do this, and so that's how they got out of this situation. She had to use her smarts a little bit sometimes. Like, how does she figure out how to get through this obstacle course when her physical limitations set her apart? So I thought I felt like that's why I got so invested into this character. Man, my rankings, oh goodness gracious. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm gonna go from book 1 rankings, and I'm gonna say it is Violet. Not Feyre, the other one.
Selena.
I think going just off of what I know from book 1, it's Violet, Selena, Feyre.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Ringing endorsement.
From book 1.
I totally agree with you guys. Like, she is a very compelling character. The physical limitations, the challenges, the way she overcomes with intelligence or duplicity. I mean, the whole poisoning her opponent's thing is very clever. the way she reads her brother's journal and then adapts it to her way of solving problems. Doesn't choose his method or her sister's method, but uses his knowledge and then builds on it. I liked all of that. I think it's just, it's a very clever character who has a powerful backstory, realistic hurdles, relatable situations. It works really well for me. I will happily lead off the second bit of conversation that I want to do here. And obviously it's the gentleman, right? It's the love triangle. You got to have it in these books. I know it's a love triangle, but it's really a love line, but we'll deal with that later.
I mean, the author even has said, I've seen a thing where she even said, she's like, I hate love triangles. There's no love triangle.
Yeah. It's not even like they fake you that there's an option. Like it's really just like a love straight line, but we have two gentlemen really. And if we don't want to focus on it from a romance standpoint, then really it's from a like superior officer standpoint, because we have two sort of slightly older characters who have gone through the first year. Like she has, in one case, we have Xaden, who is a third year, and we have Dane, who's a second year. Dane was her childhood friend. She's known all her life, whose father, much like her mother, very high ranking in the military. And so they just sort of grew up around one another. And Dane is always trying to protect her, trying to force her into the scribes, like sneak her illicitly kind of into the scribe quadrant, but she refuses a time and again. He is always sort of trying to protect her. Inversely, we have Xaden, who is a member of a sort of ostracized group in this society. Xaden's part of the traitors, basically, whose parents rebelled against the military of this society, and as punishment they were all the parents were killed, and the children forced at a certain age to become part of the Dragon Riders, and whether they survived it or not, they were forced in. Xaden has risen very quickly, has shown a ton of skill in being a Dragon Rider, and so you have for Violet these two sort of perspectives on how to be a success in the dragon riding. Dane, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to keep you from harm. I'm going to like try to trick you or trick your mom into letting you be a scribe. And Xaden, who's like, stab them bitches. Like he is very much like, you do what you got to do to survive. Like, I don't know who's been telling you otherwise, but like, this is a cutthroat life. And there's no like wheelchair access here. Like you just do it or you don't. And there's no other way. Conlon says they do Dane dirty. Holy fall from grace. I feel for this dude. And I only know what they obviously give us in book 1. Who knows where Dane and Xaden go in book 2 and 3. For me, I respect Dane as what he's trying to accomplish. His methods are dramatically flawed. This guy has his head up his ass, and Xaden, on the other hand, is like dealing with real world. He is dealing with reality in every facet. He has come up in a very different way from Dane and Violet, and Xaden is a character that's easy to like because there's no as much as he has to keep his thoughts to himself, he doesn't really lie to anybody. He is not like looking anybody in the eyes and like telling them a completely different thing. He just keeps his thoughts to himself, and he's going to be like, nope, I am here to survive. I am here to help people. I am here to be ruthless and survive and just kill. But I am not here to tell you some fairy tale. I am not here to pretend that this is something better than it is. This is war. People are here to kill, and I'm really good at this. I'm happy to be good at this. So I think these are very interesting, sort of polar opposite characters for guidance or guiding lights for Violet. I thought they were useful in her journey, and I liked the two of them a ton. But I'm very curious, and I'll start with Paul. Your thoughts on Dane and Xaden, and I'm assuming I'm saying them right, but who cares? Mm-hmm. Like at this point, sure, Dane Cook and Xaden or Xaden or Zarden.
Xanax and Dane Cook. Let's go with it.
Xanax and Dane Cook. What are your thoughts, Paul?
I do agree with you. I think Dane is blinded by the rules, and he is the stepping stones for Violet to become better, right? She's got to get past him, and Xaden is kind of like the end goal. Like, she's trying to get to that level of calm and assuredness and confidence that he has in all things. And I agree. I think that it's there again. Good pieces of the puzzle in this book one to be the main male characters for her, you know, and beyond the dragons, right? Once we get to the dragons, right,
that's going to be
a
the
little
next
bit of a
topic,
different,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
sure.
a little bit different, but for in terms of her development and her growth, one of them is in the way and one of them is ushering on. Right,
Sure.
and Dane is in the way, kind of deal. So,
Yeah.
I was the first time through, I was very skeptical of Xaden. Right, you could tell that Dane was super just like getting in his own way, trying to be helpful. Right, trying to help, trying to do the things that he thinks are right, and it's just not right. Like you had said. So.
Yeah.
But then Xaden for me was always skeptical. I can definitely see the
possible villainy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like there's a chance that he's not who he says he is, but very from the front or from the outset, it's very clear what his intentions are. So, but there's always that. For me, it was always a skepticism of
a nagging doubt of some kind.
Yeah, it's like something's there.
Okay.
Or something could be there.
So, Greg, for me, it was also like Dane represented who she was before this place.
Yeah.
And Xaden kind of represents who she's going to be probably after in a way, it was like the before and after for me. Like Xaden was not going to be, like a possible choice. It was like the logical outcome versus Dane was like everything she's have to let go of.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, yeah, I get it. This is where I do also find this compelling to me because I'm not like, and I have to remember because I wasn't in book one. I wasn't Team Reese in book one. I was like kind of still like because that wasn't really a thing. Even that really wasn't an option in book one.
You were tampon friendly. I get it.
It was I was tampon adjacent there.
You weren't adjacent. I went back and watched.
I did like tampon in the beginning, right? Yeah. And like because Reese really wasn't even there wasn't a triangle there in the first book. It wasn't even an option. Like you didn't have it. He showed up for like 4 chapters. Like he was in it just a little bit more than the smut of that book. And it felt like but I will say this, like I do feel like a triangle not as much, but there is a little bit of I think Dane is written in a way that you're supposed to dismiss him right away. Like in the book of like screw Dane, like you're Tamlin. He definitely is still not Tamlin.
Because he doesn't believe in her, right?
Right.
He doesn't believe it's possible she'll survive this.
But it's not even that because again, like I'm trying my best to put myself in his shoes. He still is a 20-some-year-old kid, right? Who is being overprotective of his childhood best friend, where the death rate of this school is 12% higher, whatever, even 20%. If you want to say 50%, which it isn't, it doesn't seem it's insanely. And she is struggling with a disability that he's known all her life, right? Like, so for him, like, I do side with him a little bit of like, man, you're smart. Like, you could really be helpful for the cause if you go to the scribe. So I get that aspect. And I also understand like the military aspect of Dane, of like who he is, what he's training to do, and some of the probably decisions that he makes that we'll talk about later in this book
Sure.
Yes, as a 40-year-old man, almost 40-year-old man here, sitting here and like judging this book, like I would have done things differently. I don't know if I would have
How
gone
does this
against
20-year-old girl not know what to do?
I don't know if I would have like gone against my father, who's a respected high general, and said, "Hey, you need to do this for the good of our cause." To be like, do I go against him? Like whether it's right or wrong. I feel like there's a little like we write him off so quick because of that inner turmoil that he has. He still is a 20-year-old in college trying to live up to these expectations of his father and also still be protective of his best friend.
Yeah.
With that being said, Xaden was a spicy treat. Like, woo, like, but you don't trust him right. I don't trust him right off the bat. Like, it seems like from the first interaction, no matter what you've seen on Book Talk, like it's gonna be Violet and Xaden are gonna have the smut chapter. Like, that's happening. And so like it's this kind of just like the whole toying with each other throughout it. It is interesting to see that kind of dynamic because he doesn't necessarily lie. He holds stuff back, but he still is shady as F. And like I mean, I'm only 150 pages in that book. I don't even know. Like, I don't know if I'm still fully out. Like, and I appreciate that. That is what I appreciate about this series so far. Like, I was 150 pages into, Court of Thorn and whatever the second one was, and I was like, "Yep, Team Reese, I'm back." I switched so quick.
Mist and Fury,
yeah. I'm like, "Screw you, Tamlin." So, like, I think it's interesting.
Sure. What's up, Steven Spock? He's dropping those member channel emojis. He's dropping that Green Lantern. I appreciate you, Steve. I hope things are going well. So, JP, we haven't talked about it yet, but my largest complaint, and maybe we'll get everybody's thoughts on that at the end, but is related to Xaden and to Dane, which is that I had not seen any of the memes to do with this series.
Right.
But right off the bat, I was like, Xaden's going to be the guy. He's the guy. Like I, as much as I was like, he's sketchy and there's some story here, I knew that the story would reveal his genuinely quality nature. So for me, reading it, as much as I liked the surprises, and I'm not burning the surprises all the way through, and we'll deal with brother, I guess, if we want, I could like on the wall at the beginning tell you how these things were going to end up. So my biggest complaint was I knew everything at the beginning, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment. How are you with Dane and Xaden and knowing where it was going, or did you go along for the ride and not suspect?
Oh no, I knew exactly where it was going. When she mentioned when the sister tells her, "Find Dane, avoid Xaden," it was over. I knew.
Mira might be she's a good soldier. She doesn't know anything about guys.
Yeah.
Don't trust her for men. I'm choosing men.
As soon as she did that, that was putting the plate of cookies on the shelf and saying, "Don't eat this fresh baked thing of cookies."
But from her sister's standpoint, is all she knows about Xaden is what she's heard and what her mom did to him. Like her sister knows what her mom did to him, and she knows that Dane. They've been friends since they were little kids. Like so. I mean, her sister's motivation is not romance. It's like to survive the school, find Dane. But Dane fails Violet, not from the beginning in terms of he refuses to accept the reality of the situation that Violet accepts immediately, which is, I'm here one way or another. Either I survive or I die. There is no out. And so instead of really helping her, he just continues to try to find the out because he doesn't believe that even with help, that she's going to make it.
Right.
And so he's just so terrified of losing his friend that he's like, no, we have to find the out. We have to find the out. He can't see like that the best way to get her out is to help her succeed. And I love that there's a scene early on when she's been poisoning all her opponents on the mat. and she poisons one too early that they can't even compete. And Zayden like fights her on the mat, and he's like taking all her
it out, right? Yeah.
And at the end of it, he turns to Dane and he's like, a little less protection and a little more teaching would go a long way.
Yeah.
And like he calls him out on it, but even after that moment, Dane refuses to. Even after she bonds with the dragons, Dane refuses to like see that she's making it help her. Like instead of trying to
help her make it, instead of helping her run away from this. Yeah.
Like he can't get past the little girl he grew up with that was always disabled. Even though they're basically the same age, he's only a year older. He sees little Violet and not the girl he grew up with and not the woman she's trying to become or what she's dealing with now.
Yeah. That's a great, and again, that relates to me. The way I pictured them all along was the past and the future for her is kind of represented in a subtle way with these two characters. And, and that for me was another hint that, wash your hands of Dane, at least for now, until he grows up a bit himself.
Now, in terms of Zayden, and you guys like that he was he's obviously like keeping secrets. Like that, it's very obvious that there's more to him than what he's showing her. But like even from the beginning, like when she sees their little group meeting underneath the tree and he catches her, and like all through this, he's not telling her everything, but he's just like, you see that he's assessing her more on who she is than because he doesn't know who she was, and even trying to assess her on who she is and not who her mother was or who her mother is. And like he's trying to give her that benefit of the doubt, because when the reality is he probably should, based on what her mother did to her, when she found her in the tree, he should have just killed her right there. Like,
right.
And he doesn't. But he says like later in the book, like at one point in the story, he's like, "You're my test every day on whether or not I'm a good person and whether or not I kill you." Like he, because he's pretty upfront with her about certain aspects of what's going on with him, like the things that he's trying to keep like to him, like the bigger picture things that he has going on in the background, he's not. But in terms of him and her, he's fairly upfront with her pretty much throughout the book and the story. So from that standpoint he's trying to, and then when their lots are thrown together, which we'll get to, I know in a minute, like he's even before that, he's trying to genuinely help her in a way that Dane is not. And so from that standpoint, and obviously he's the shadow, that she's like, oh, gotta go for the dark brooding. Yeah, for sure. So the love interest thing was never a doubt at all.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I guess I want to do two more topics and we'll see how much time we have left after that. The topics are going to be obviously the next one, dragons, and then we'll get to maybe what we didn't like or what was maybe holding it back for us from being among our favorites. If there's other stuff at the end we have time for, I'd happy to get into it. But let's talk dragons. As a kid, if a book had a dragon on the cover, I probably bought it. Like that was just a fair rule for John from like 5th through, I don't know, today. It was a fair thing. It was fair. So I was very happy to see dragons. I like the way they were used. For those that don't understand, basically it's kind of like there's this culture of humans in the story with this school, and they have a tenuous bond with the dragon culture. And the way it works is every year the humans send forth their legion of dragon riders, and the dragons look them over in a few different ways. And if they are deemed worthy, there's a bonding that happens between dragon and rider, and they start to communicate telepathically. They start to have shared abilities. They start to then be trained on how to fight, and there's dog fighting, aerial fighting abilities that come into it. And then of course, teamwork as well. On top of that, there's a lot of things that go on. There's also this concept of mated pairs, which is very common in, ACOTAR, the idea that a dragon might bond with another dragon as far as being a mate, and then their riders would also be linked in some manner. This comes to fruition when Violet bonds with not one but two dragons. a very famous dragon who has lost its rider in the past, who is massive and is mated with Zayden's dragon. And so there's already this interesting like quadrangle that sort of occurs here where Zayden and Violet's dragons are a mated pair, and now they're all communicating telepathically, and there's this bond that's happening across all four of them. And then there's this other dragon, this sort of unusual, in my vision, cat-like dragon. They talk about cute paws and fur and all these kinds of things. And it is later revealed is actually an infantile dragon, a juvenile dragon that has not yet begun to have scales and power and size and all these things, and that aren't usually allowed to show up at bonding times, but has still snuck in under the radar. And the two mated pair dragons allowed it to happen. And so now Violet has not one, but two dragons partnered with her. And amidst all of this, there's other players and other dragons and other species and other things going on. But I just really enjoyed the not only design of these dragons and the descriptions for these dragons, having 2 legs and then wings, which some people have 4 legs. When I think of like it's 2 legs and wings, right? Because the griffins have 4 legs.
No, 4 legs and wings.
4 legs and wings.
The
worms or the
Wyverns, too.
The wyverns are the 2. Okay.
Yeah.
The idea that like they are also like an extension of our heroes in some manner, that there's this like relationship between them where that's constant despite distance, that there's communication constantly happening. She's in a class being thrown on the mat and beat up, and her dragon's talking to her about how you suck, you got to work harder at this. Like there's a constant, so it's almost like inner monologue happening for the characters. So visually interesting, psychologically interesting. I'm just curious, JP, when it comes to the use of dragons, how did you feel about the way they're used in the story?
I really enjoyed the way they were used in the story, because the dragons have most of the agency in this, which you don't always. Sometimes you see it's usually either the dragons are in control or the people are completely in control or whatever. But the dragons have a lot of the agency, but it does seem to be kind of a true partnership once they bond. And but they're making the decision like of who they're picking and why they're picking them. And when the 2 dragons choose to bond with Violet, and like all the people are like, no, and the dragons come back and go, yeah, we're gonna allow it, and they're like, okay, because it's and I mean, and we talked about earlier about the school, like 70% of by the end of it, they were like 70% of the kids won't survive or whatever. But it's because like there's only X amount of dragons, and they're trying to get the best of the best for the dragons to be riding. Is why this is such a tough environment. And like they march the kids in front of them down and back, and the dragons like look them over and go, yeah, I'm gonna burn you. And it's just part of it, and there's no justification. The kids don't have to have done anything wrong other than to have offended the dragon. So it's just it's just I thought it was an excellent use of the dragons. I really enjoy getting the fact that like, and you've seen it in other things where they're like sharing thoughts, but I love like the dynamic of when his dragon starts talking to her and she's like, what the heck, because that's not something she realized was going to happen. And, that there is this, so she's got 3 dragons in her head, like where most people have 1. And
Zayden on top of that, as we get later. Yeah. Yeah. And
they talk about like the fact that like, and then the scene where like the 2 mated dragons are getting busy, and it's like, like her emotions are going wild because she's like feeling all of it coming through Tarn, and it's like,
right.
And so I thought it was an excellent use of the way they used them. Yeah. The way they talked about, the whole concept of a dragon without its rider is a tragedy, but a rider without its dragon is dead. Because like once you bond, if the dragon dies, you die. Yeah. Now, if you die, the dragon doesn't necessarily die, because Tarn has obviously lost a rider before. So there is like I thought it was an interesting dynamic. I really enjoyed it.
Sure.
I enjoyed the way they characterize the dragons that we get, the 3 dragons that we get to know in this. Like, I enjoyed the way they characterize them. And even, like, I enjoyed, like, we get snippets of, like, when one of the other cadets, like, commits a crime against Violet and gets judged, and all the dragons come, and basically, in some ways, it's the dragons passing the judgment as much, if not more so, than the people, and her dragon's reaction when Tarn executes her, like the the way the dragons react to losing a rider is so.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. The great scene is like they march him in front of it, and there's one kid in Violet's squad that's super indecisive, and you can just see that you can see it coming, and he gets burned. And this girl is basically laughing and like, haha, I knew that was going to happen. He deserved it, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets burned. And it's just like the dragons are like, they're looking for, they're being
the right stuff.
The right stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So sure. I enjoyed it.
Greg, one of my favorite things about the dragons that we get in this is they have such distinct personalities. And then the discussions happening in characters' heads, that psychic sort of connection, is really entertaining, and it adds a real fun dimension to the schoolwork and the romances and the friendships and the teacher relationships and the deaths and things that's for me, that was the juice of the whole book. Is once we got into the bonding second half of this book, the dragons' personalities were so winning.
Yeah, no, and I'll hop right into that here in a second. But first and foremost, Paul, I just gotta say I was cracking up the entire time JP was talking.
The dog,
because your dog and the way the dog's head came up into the shot, it's a black dog, and it just merged right there. I couldn't see it. It just looked like your shirt, and you were just like shaking your hand. Like, it's like I was like, what is like? I was like, Paul's just really excited to talk about this. I was like, oh wait, no, there's a dog.
Dragons.
The dragons are here, guys.
This is Helena.
I was
good girl.
Because it literally took me like 30 seconds to notice that your dog had popped in.
There it
is. She comes this time.
if you're watching this stream and you're confused about like the whole bonding and mating with the dragons, imagine it's this, like JP is Violet here, right? Like JP as the YouTuber was like, I need to find someone to bond with, and he latched on to John, this like longer old head YouTube person that like he's like, I'm gonna have this connection and this bond with this, and people know who John's Comics with Kids are, and they're like, this is a good connection. And then like I'm the like little like infant dragon that's like, hey, I want to be a part of the gang too, guys.
You're not that young.
I'm talking in YouTube sense, like
sure.
I'm talking in the YouTube culture.
Sure, since the guy that's interviewed Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to be a part of the gang too.
You realize you started on this show first, right?
No, I didn't. I don't know.
You did. You were
this
first.
Is your show.
This is you and I.
You're the one. Like,
I'm talking about
long-term
YouTube.
I'm the one going.
Here, how about I fix it like this?
There we go.
Just get the camera logo in the corner.
Much better. Much better. No, but I thought it was interesting. Like, it is really unique reading these books. Not, simultaneously, basically, like this, the ACOTAR, the Fourth Wing, and seeing similarities of the mating bonds, right? Like you have the mating bonds of, Farah and Reese Cup, and you have the mating bonds between Violet and the dragon. What is the dragon's name?
Tarn?
It's Tarn or Tarn.
It's way too close to Tamlin for me, which is it drives me insane.
It's got a T and an A, I guess.
I said Tarn in my head.
Yeah,
okay, but it's really similar. But like, but like the mating bonds and how those are unique, and that like basically Xandon and Violet can communicate telepathically, and you know, because of their dragon and have
Yeah.
and have those bonds. I wasn't much of a dragon kid growing up, to be honest. Like, you know, I made the Dragonheart joke at the beginning. Like, Dragonheart was my knowledge of dragons. I
got some books for you when we're done. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's great and it's fine. But I remember after I read Fourth Wing, the first thought I had was comic books need more dragons in them. And if there are great comic books that have dragons in them, let me know. But I was just like, I have not read much with dragons. And like, I know Game of Thrones, that was a big thing. And like, I think I got like up to season 5 and then life happened.
I mean, it's a good comparison because obviously the dragons in Game of Thrones are very like personality-less. They're very much treated like pets. There's not the same level of communication and understanding because the generation of characters in Game of Thrones didn't grow up with dragons and didn't have this connection to them through like history. And so I think it's more interesting here because they're like legit characters versus the ones in Game of Thrones are a bit kept at arm's length.
And that's why I did use that Dragonheart talk, because there is that bond between Dennis Quaid and Sean Connery's dragon.
Yeah.
Where they have the communication. They're like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to act like this. We're going to do these things. And I think that was an element that I really appreciated about this book, like of getting to see they're not a pet in this. They're not a means to an end. They are a significant character here that's going to help propel the story forward, and you're going to have dialogue. You're going to have these conversations. And so for me, I was like, I love that bond between Violet and Taryn, and you know, and kind of seeing how that works out, as well as the little yupling that whatever, you know, that they're trying to figure out, or whatever. The orange feather tail or whatever it was.
They're gold. She's like gold.
She's gold, furry. Yeah.
But
she's a stuffed animal.
I thought it was great. I thought how they presented dragons in this world was great.
Yeah. Paul, so Paul, what about you? I mean, obviously we get a lot of dragons and a lot of interrelationships here, and as mentioned, like very different than Game of Thrones. Reminds me of books I read when I was a little younger, as far as like how the dragons have real personalities and speak and interact. You know, much like Smaug, you know, from The Hobbit. Oh, microphones.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Probably
yes,
not.
sir.
Yeah. Okay. They're characters on their own, right? They are
100%.
They are part of that main character cast, and I think they make this book more enjoyable. You know, just the perspective, the way that they're written as, you know, legit characters within the structure of this universe.
Yeah,
you know, they make just as much of a choice and decision and outcome towards the end, as we're kind of figuring out what the main goal of the story is to push forward. Like they are the reason that a lot of this stuff that we're seeing is happening. So it's really enjoyable. I like the way that the dragons are done. Game of Thrones dragons are, like you said, pets or horses, in my opinion. They have character, but you don't interact.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas these dragons, you interact with them. They all of the characters that we learn and that we meet throughout the story have dragons of their own, and they have their own personalities, and and that's what matches up. You know, when we look at the personality of Tarn, and we look at the personality of Violet, and see like there's a reason that they are together, because that version, the dragon sees himself at some point in Violet and choosing her. And it's the same reason Andarna chooses Violet, is because there is that caring for others, there is that worry for others, and that's what she brings to the table, and it's the blend. So
totally.
I really like them. It's good.
Yeah, for sure. And again, as a kid, like Dragonlance Chronicles, and you know, there was a ton of things that I was reading as a kid that was like, if it has a dragon, I'm gonna read it. I'm excited for it. So this was the first time in the books we've read up to now where I was getting that from it in some way. We're at an hour and 20. I don't want to go crazy long, but I do want to get into any criticisms, any things that it sounds like already reading part 2, almost done with part 2, willing to read part 2, excited to at some point buy the second book. So obviously we're positive on the books overall, but are there criticisms? Are there things you wish maybe had been more effectively done better? For me, the biggest criticism was there was very little subtlety, very little shock and awe. I could see, spoiler alert, I knew her brother was alive at the freaking beginning of this book. I was not surprised by this in any way. Like I just saw it. I just was like, they didn't tell us how he died. There's a lot of lack of information about brother's death. Brother's alive. Like I just knew it. I just knew it way early. Xaden's not a bad guy. I knew it. I didn't know like what his big end game was and what he was manipulating towards. The fact that there was more to this war than Mom was letting on, obviously, clearly evident because Mom is so secretive. So for me, the biggest complaints were not a lot of subtlety and the twists were obvious to me. And that might be in the young adult form, right? We mentioned a few times in the stream that like this feels like a young adult book, and in that way doesn't have the depth and the subtlety that maybe a book for adults might have. But those are my only complaints, and they're honestly half-hearted complaints. There's a lot that I love here, and I'm excited for more. I'm curious, and Greg, I'll throw to you first. Like, what were your complaints? What were your frustrations?
It's interesting because I did not see the brother coming at all. I'm gonna just be honest. Like I was a giddy.
No, it's fine. I might just be like the idiot who's like
I was giddy. Like
into the subtleties.
I was reading it. They, at the end, and we opened to that page where I was like, oh, let's go. I got super excited. Like I got emotional. Like yes, like, and that was where it shifted finally for me with Xaden a little bit because of that. Because I was like, okay, if Xaden's cool with the brother who's alive, like, then maybe he's not as shady as because I still, until that point, I was still like,
you were still doubting him.
I still doubted Xaden. Like,
That's
as much
funny.
as he was doing, I felt like I was getting led in a way that was like, we're going to trick you here. Like, you like Xaden, and he's the bad boy for a reason. Like, he's going to break your heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a big knock on this book because of that. Like, I'm a simpleton. I get surprised by young adults all the time.
That's what we
like,
love
they're
about
young
you,
adult
buddy.
books
You
all
know,
the time.
don't be hard on yourself.
I read those books because I'm like, I like the 8 twists in a row. Like, that's fantastic for me. I think my biggest knock is, and I kind of already stated it, I think they're trying, and maybe I see myself in Dane a little bit as an overprotective person. Like, I feel like Dane's getting written into this nook of like, that you're supposed to look at him like, Dane sucks. Haha, he's the worst. And then he's going to be better in the series moving forward. I hope he is, because like Tamlin was written as like, you're going to love Tamlin, and he sucks the rest of the series. And he sucks the rest of the series. And like, so like for me, like, I don't know if I have a big knock on the book other than that I feel like they're trying to force hatred for a character that the character knows that they're going to redeem that character, because that happens often in media, right? Like, how many times have we seen someone that we've either loved in season 1 of a TV show, and season 3 of a TV show we hate, aka Ted Lasso? Spoiler alert.
You hate Ted Lasso?
No, season 1, there's a character that I love.
Oh, okay. Sorry, the way you said it is you were talking about Ted.
He's talking about Nate. He's talking about Nate the Great, but it was
Nate
like
the Great,
for a second I was like, wait, what exactly are we talking about?
But you know who I'm talking about, and you knew that because like
I knew it was.
So like that almost feels like that was my knock, is it felt forced of there's going to be someone that you're supposed to kind of like that you hate right away that then maybe you're going to like again. So like that was my knock. And again, like it's a minor knock because I fell for the brother that you didn't. So
fair. JP, I'll go to you second. Like what are the any of the gripes you might have, any complaints you might have, and is there anything holding you back from just like absolutely grabbing on full stream here?
I didn't have a ton of complaints, I don't think. I think my complaints are pretty minor. My biggest complaint is Liam. Son of a bitch.
Disappointing. I wanted her to at least bang him once, like workout bang, like to work out some of that energy.
My biggest complaint is like everyone didn't know when like lightning was striking all outside the building. Like, come on, like
I get the sense that they ignore. I get the sense that they ignore a lot of that stuff. Yeah. That it's like, oh, she's got water powers and it's raining outside when she's banging. Like, I get a sense that there's just a lot.
Violent social life.
Yeah, it's like living in a dorm where you're like the sock is on the doorknob. Like you just know because of like all the
out of nowhere. It was a beautiful day. Suddenly we got a thunderstorm.
She's got fire powers and there's like smoke coming under the door when she's got her boyfriend over. Like you just know.
But more seriously, like I sort of disagree with Greg that they're trying to make you hate Dane. I think Dane's gonna have an arc, which is probably pretty obvious because his heart was always in the right place.
But we're still waiting for Tamlin's arc,
right? But you still hate him in the first book, I think.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.
For me, my biggest complaint is I do feel like Violet is a little bit slow to figure out sort of what's going on. Like, for as smart as she is, like between the stuff from her dad and some of the other stuff, there's enough clues there. Now, I did not pick up that Brennan was still alive until much later in the book. Like I knew before he appeared, but I didn't get that until much later in the book.
Okay,
you're like from the beginning, but I didn't pick it up too much later.
So early on, I'm like, this feels shifty to me.
Yeah, but I just felt like
what's up, Harry?
Was a little bit, but it was understandable to me because she was so focused on just I gotta survive. But there was enough stuff there that it did feel like she was a little slow to pick up on the bigger picture of stuff that was going on. But otherwise, no, I didn't really have any complaints. I just enjoyed it. It was a fun ride. Is it a perfect book? No, but it's such a fun ride, and so I don't have really any complaints.
I'm impressed. All right, and then Paul, any when you finished the first book, did you have anything that was kind of like that kind of bothers me, that sticks with me a little bit?
You're muted again.
Uh-oh.
It's just what I do right now. It's just like, Paul.
Still no good.
Nope, Paul, don't do it.
Oh, it made a bzzz.
Paul, do it again.
He's going to reboot. John, I knew along. I was like, come on, man. I mean, I'm right here. Just say it to my face, Greg.
JP was talking. I didn't want to say it. I've been
interrupted.
JP.
The problem is I'm keeping you talk. The gaps in between talking are so long now. He's like, my headphones just falls asleep. Like it's curious.
His headphones are the Netflix of this YouTube. Are you still on the show?
Are you still on the stream?
Are you still here?
Are you still participating?
Does John still want you to talk?
Yeah,
you can.
I do. I mean, I want you to participate eventually.
Well, John, why don't you talk, and then once Paul gets at work, and just interrupt us.
Yeah.
He'll join in when he's ready. Stevie, I think this is hilarious. Like, if they have that competition every year, like, what is the most valuable thing to the enemy? Like, Mom's gonna get invaded a bunch. Oh, are you back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. He's back. He's back.
I need a new mic. I need something. Before I get into my one gripe, I do gotta say I think the author did a really good job of representation in this entire book.
Okay.
Like, all of the characters, like, very well described, very well pointed out that it is a different ethnicities, different cultures mixing and blending together at this war college. So that was something that I really enjoyed about this one compared to some of the other books where it's
Sure.
not as much of a mix, or it's much more noticeable, even though we
Yeah.
have this one idea of a rebelling territory within the continent and everything. But even so, like the culture that's there, that's kind of intertwined
Or even
subtly.
the class elements of like
Mhm.
strata of power in this
Yeah,
environment.
From the dragon riders to the scribes to the infantry, like all the way down. I thought that was
Sure.
really well done, representation wise. So I just wanted to throw that out there. My one gripe was kind of along the same lines of what JP was saying, where it took Violet a little bit longer to figure some stuff out. There were some points within that first reading through, and even the second time, where I felt confused from her perspective of like they're painting this picture, but then she's going through this, these couple chapters where it's like totally opposite of the picture that's been painted. And that was one of the things that kind of just threw me a little bit. But I really, again, very, very subtle, very slight things where it's just like, wait a second, she just went through all of this and she's still second guessing. And yes,
she doesn't have any faith in herself like Dane, and her mom doesn't really have faith in her at this point.
Right, but she's still confident enough that she's going to do this stuff. She's still working through the process.
Right.
Of still being determined and still like not giving up on things. And I was just like, well, if that's the case, why are you still doubting yourself? And it's just, to me, there's some points that were just throwing me off just a little bit, but it was very, very, very small or subtle things.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I'm assuming everybody's clearly several of you are already reading the second book. At some point, I've got to get into
the second and third book.
I've got to. I want to mention that there's a difference between the paperbacks and the hardcovers for this, because JP got the hardcover, I got the paperback, and the paperback includes a couple of chapters at the end written from Zayden's perspective. It's kind of like we were able to go back and revisit key moments in the relationship between characters and get a perspective that may have been hidden from us previous to this. They're not necessary.
You're going to get bonus chapters from Zayden's perspective. Why weren't they the smut chapters? What the hell?
I mean, fair. I mean, factual. So personally, I feel like they're not necessary. They're informative and they're interesting, but I mean, not a huge add-on. But obviously the paperbacks are cheaper, and they include those if you're looking for them. I might go library hoopla for the next two books, just because I don't generally plan on keeping all of these forever, and that might be the better option for me long term. I was just surprised how expensive the digital versions on Amazon and such are for these books. What's going on, Greg? What are you showing off here? What's going on? Oh, there it is.
Library. Yeah.
Library, baby. I'm going to return that book for you. But
it's
yeah,
right.
So
there's 80 copies at my library, so we're good.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
I'm
the newest. So for those that don't know, this is a 3-book series as of now, and the newest book just came out in January. So this is a very kind of new series. It's not like this has been ongoing for a long time, and there's a ton of books to be read. Don't expect a 4th book anytime soon, because they just dropped one this year. But I'm assuming everybody's interested in more. JP, clearly more.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely interested in more. Like I said, I think of the 3 series that you guys have dove into and now I've dove into, I think this is the strongest first book. And like Greg said, if you were just basing off the first book, Violet might be my favorite of the 3 main female characters. But I've got 4 books of Selena to compare to 1 book of Violet. So at this point,
well, I mean, if you're comparing just on that first book, again, for me,
that's what you asked.
Selena is just slightly above Violence for me. Selena, I liked a little bit better at the end of book 1 than Violence, but it's really close.
I did want to say one comment about your complaint about this book, which was like I said, minor. You talked about that it was very straightforward. You saw it, but we talked about that also for like the Throne of Glass book, that it was very straightforward, that we could all kind of see where it was going. It was the training montage. She's clearly going to win the competition, you know. So I think that's maybe just I mean, clearly we're reading books that are in a category of a type of story, and I think sometimes these first books are very like obvious in where they're going as they try to just set up the world to then expand and go different directions as we move forward.
Well, JB, you nailed it, because that was my issue with the first book of Throne of Glass, right? I said I knew she was going to win the tournament because she had to. There was no other way to tell that story. Like, so it felt like very closed in there. So that's why I love the next one a lot more.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that, you know, as the writers get into these series a little more, it's the same kind of thing. It's what we've noticed with, for me, the quote unquote second books of the other two series are my favorite. And I would count the third book of Throne of Glass as the second in that way, that it feels very much like now we're going to expand the universe. You know, now we're going to expand the world. So my curiosity is I'm very interested to see what this looks like when they expand this universe and how that kind of evolves from here, especially if this is designed around 3 years at the military academy and people are telling me that there's a potential 5-book series here. This is going way beyond the walls of this school in the end, you know.
I got a question for you guys before we wrap everything up.
Paul.
Where do you see the biggest antagonist coming from based off of book 1? So our protagonist for sure is Violet, the dragons. You know, Zayden's kind of tagging along. Who right now to you guys is your biggest antagonist?
I'm gonna cut the line here on this one because you guys always tease me about how I never answer the question. So I'm gonna answer the question first, and I'm gonna make Greg wait to go second. Deal with it. Yeah, deal with it. I think this is a White Walker kind of thing as far as Game of Thrones. I view the Wyverns and that culture as like the impending villains of this whole thing. Mom is an idiot for politically ignoring the fact that there's a faction here and it's easier to demonize this one side of her squad than it is to recognize their genuine threat, which is this the folks they fight at the end of the book. So I view Mom as just an impediment in the war, but not the villain. She's an easy target for Violet because, you know, parents are easy to villainize when you're a kid. But I view the character, and I can't remember what they call Paul. What do they call the
Venom?
Yes, I think the Venom and the Wyverns are the White Walkers, like in Game of Thrones, that are coming in, and the real enemy, and all the infighting, right? All the clan fighting that's going on is just the pettiness, and ultimately clans are going to need to figure out a way to work together to fight the real enemy. So for me, that's my perspective on it. Greg.
Well, I put what I think the villain is, again, this is not going into book 2 at all. I think it's Dane's daddy because he's making some moves in this book where it's like,
but it's Dane's daddy just like Dane, and he's just following orders.
I don't think so. I think Violet's mom has the same issue that Violet has with Dane a little bit of, like, she grew up with the relationship of, you know, Violet's mom and Dane's dad know each other and kind of like, oh, we're doing this thing, because you see glimpses of Violet's mom showing up here and going like, hey, maybe this isn't the move. I'm proud of you, whatever. Like, there's glimpses without it being completely said. I think Dane's dad is kind of, he gives me vibes of the king of in Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fair. We got a couple more homies in the chat. Perry has decided not to be.
I don't know if I would say either are homies.
Homies is a strong word. Quickly for that one.
Perry
I'll
is
take
here.
Perry.
He's no longer the cork. I appreciate it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sexy does Chris of Chaos and Comics say it is? He says on a scale of 1 to Perry, how sexy is it? Perry says, I'm an 8. Deal with it. We're not using any AI. We have enough water shortages on our planet. We don't need to. You guys are having a whole conversation. I love it.
These guys are
look
going.
They're talking about all kinds of weird stuff.
Look at that belt. That's looking fancy, Chaos.
Who
I don't know
did
if
I
you've seen
beat
that
for
before.
this belt?
That's a beauty. That's a beauty.
Mm-hmm.
So we heard from Greg. We heard from me. JP, what are your thoughts on what Paul is asking here as far as the true villain of this series as of the end of book 1?
So, I mean, the king would be the more obvious choice than Dane's dad in terms of that he's the on that side in terms because you see how he reacts to like where's Zayden, like when they come to the thing and Violet's like looking for him, and obviously his general who has the dragon that kind of can see the outcome of battles. I feel like
right.
So there's like these two forces. It's the king is and his general that can see kind of the outcome are probably like Tywin and Cersei, and then you got the White Walkers. So you're going to have ultimately they're going to have to beat both of those in order to like actually succeed in whatever it is they're trying to do here. Like that's where I feel like this is going. I'm not sure Violet's mom is like a villain at all. I think Violet's mom is is she in some ways like we will see where this goes. She's obviously very cold to her in this, but
sure,
is she the only one that actually saw Violet's potential? Like, everyone else is like, you can't do this, Violet, when she goes in here.
And mom says you are doing it.
And other than her mom is like, no, you are doing this.
Yeah.
And ultimately Zayden, who's like, we're gonna get you through this. You're gonna do this. Like, so it's an interesting relationship between her and her mom. Is her mom sort of like what Dane is in this book, which is she's just been following orders for a lot of the crap that she's done here.
Yeah.
Or is she an active participant in what we're seeing, which is the leadership of this world, basically of this country, like turning a blind eye to the things that are happening outside because they're not yet a threat to them. So who cares if our enemies are being mowed under by this bigger threat?
Because they're infighting rather than focusing on the real threat, right?
Yeah. So is she, what is her mom like? And I don't think we've seen that yet in terms of where is her mom actually at? Is her mom a threat or is she is she just really, trying to like do the best she can in the situation she's at? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with her mom here. But yeah, I think it's obviously the king and the general that with the other black dragon, I think are clearly like big. The other black dragon, there's a reason there's only 2 black dragons. There's going to be a showdown between the other black
There can be only one.
And
there should be it's a Highland or
so
the High Winger.
To me, I think it's the rider of the other black dragon, and then the Venom are the 2 main villains.
Fair. I mean, we an hour and 45. This was great. I appreciate you guys for these fun discussions. I don't know for sure what we're going to read next, but it does sound like the gang here is wanting the second book in this series. Although I know a ton of this crew,
that guy. That's just him.
A ton of this crew has already read Assassin's Blade.
Everyone but him has already read Assassin's Blade.
Has everybody read Assassin's Blade? Greg?
Yeah. Everyone but Greg.
Okay, Greg's the only one. So eventually we'll get to Assassin's Blade when we get back to SJM at some point. But it sounds like Iron Flame is next in the queue, and I got to get to my library at some point and hook that up.
I'm just saying, I'm going to read Iron Flame, and then I got some Dungeon Crawler Carl books I got to read.
Oh, and I need to get on that.
And then I will. And then so Assassin's Blade's like 4 on my list right now. So if you're waiting for me to do another show for Assassin's Blade,
I've already read it. I'm good. It's going to be a shorter. It'll be a shorter stream for sure.
Yeah. So, I'm just saying it's Iron Flame, and then I got like 2 Dungeon Crawler books I got to read. So,
how many have they done of those at this point?
I have 5.
Says
I have
Paul.
5.
I will trust 5.
I have 5 out right now. They just released 6.
Yeah, I was about to say there's gonna be 2 more in there.
All right,
Conlin's
like Iron Flame. Here we go.
In May, and then in June 7 comes out.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Another 7-book series. That's what I need.
JP, I'm telling you, Paul, how far are you in that series?
I'm book 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Book 3, you're gonna get a little Fourth Wing vibes, and you'll understand where I get that. So
Dungeon Crawler Carl. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reads just as quickly as Fourth Wing does, for me at least.
Dungeon
All right.
That first book went so quick. And then book 2, I'm rereading the Fourth Wing books before I read that second
I
book.
literally have like 20 books in my stack at the moment.
It's significant, but JP, feel no reason to like keep up. We will happily like flux and flow back and forth between all these. And when you have a book that you've read that we're going to start doing, feel free to jump on the panel and revisit it with us.
So yeah, I'm gonna have the Throne of Glass done, and like 2 years from now, Greg's gonna let you go back to it. So.
Perry, I mean, you do you. I don't kink shame anybody, but at the same time, we're gonna stick with
we
dragons.
didn't even talk about the smut in this, so yeah.
There are 2 smut scenes, but I'm gonna close us out with a song that JP hit me with, because we're wrapping up here. So I wanna thank everybody. All the links are down below. I'm gonna remind everybody that this is a not for kids stream, and that we're gonna take it home here, folks. So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate you all for hanging with us, and enjoy some live music, gang.
Fairies fucking, vampires too. Sometimes the dragons there, and they're all in the news. Sometimes there's a dinosaur. Sometimes it's for or more. Sometimes it's just a tiny girl with a shadow daddy rocking her world.